Hey friends, thank you so much for tuning into Popcorn Fodder. I just want to take a moment to say the show is brought to you by our incredible patrons on Patreon. So if you love the show, you love what we're doing, and you want to get involved and help us out, go to patreon.com/incrediblyhandsome. Easy to remember, but go to the Patreon, and for as little as $1 a month, you can see the episodes the moment they're available, which can be sometimes weeks, if not months, before the general public sees them, and also see cool, cute pictures of the dogs, my personal musings, and just be all around a mensch. I'd really appreciate it, but more importantly than all that, on with the show.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Popcorn fodder makes me hotter.
Welcome, friends. I call you that because that's what you are, to Popcorn Fodder, the show where we watch the incredible, the strange, and the extra strange films that are overlooked by the average movie-going public. I'm your host, Henrique Couto, and I'm here to pop a squat and watch the films with you. For better or worse, we're in this together. One night, I had a hot date with a woman I'd been seeing for a few weeks, and we were really hitting it off. On our first date, I had been completely shameless and insisted that we sit in the dark with a candle lit and tell spooky stories. She didn't have any stories to tell. I, however, had plenty, of course. We ended up having a blast, laughing and getting chills, and it really helped us become close quickly. With the ice thoroughly broken, we started going out regularly and kept texting each other about when we were gonna have our next spooky time together. Eventually, we agreed on meeting up for a rousing game of Bloody Mary. For those who don't know, Bloody Mary is a game where you summon a malevolent spirit by saying Bloody Mary 3 times into a mirror in the dark. It's the kind of dark arts and macabre ritual you can expect to find at any prepubescent slumber party. Truly evil stuff. We wandered into the bathroom together, which is traditionally where one would summon the evil Mary Worthington. Just a lit candle and our giggles to protect us. As we started our chant, we got more and more excited. Bloody Mary, our arms filled with goosebumps. We laughed, but a hush came over us. We have 2 more to go. We compose our supposedly adult selves. Bloody Mary. Now we feel a cool chill come over us. We're past the point of no return now. We both take a deep breath, we build up our courage, and we both go for it. Bloody Mary. As soon as we finish, I blew out the candle. She let out a scream and she grabbed onto me. We laughed our asses off. We were so excited, drunk on love and spookies. Then we got greedy. We just had to have more fun, scary stuff, so we started going through the whole house and saying Bloody Mary to every mirror we could find. One in the bedroom, one in the china hutch in my dining room. Each time we were having so much fun being scared. I also may have made up some stuff about how doing that opened the whole house to evil or something else that sounded creepy like that. We then plopped down on the couch. Oh yeah, it's that time in the date. We started getting closer to each other. Then we heard something. A sound. We startled and looked around. It was probably a neighbor getting out of their car, but our hearts were pounding. Then the motion control light outside turned on. Now this light turns on for no reason all the time, but for that night, and that night only, it was undoubtedly ghosts. After a few more attempts to get close to each other, we were just plain terrified. We ended up turning on every single light in the house, put on a comedy on the TV set. That night, There would be no intimacy. That night, the spookies won. A lot of the films we get to show may be defined as horror, but they're not necessarily scary. Tonight's film is one I have found eerie and unsettling since I was a teenager. What would you do if you found out you could command death at your fingertips by changing pins in a cemetery map? If you found out you were commanding powers you couldn't possibly understand, would you use this power? Would you try to stop anyone else from using it? Or maybe you're not commanding the powers at all. Maybe they're commanding you. That's what our character is dealing with in tonight's film. In a bone-chilling black and white, this film is called I Bury the Living. Now, let's press play before I creep myself out any more than I already have. Henwolf, I'm gonna need you to hold me.
Welcome, sir. Welcome to the immortal hills. Thank you. So, by way of making you feel right at home, Bobby, Mr. Chairman. Come along, sir.
After you. This is your place now, you know. Of course. It isn't as if you was any stranger here, Bob.
But somehow this place all looks different to me. Like I never saw it before. Well, maybe I never had to. It's cool as an icebox in here.
Oh, that thing hasn't worked in years. Cement holds the wet, you know, makes the air a wee bit Christmassy. Won't bother you none once you get down to work.
I'm not sworn in yet.
Oh, that's only for show, sir. Now, let me see if I got the list of committee men right. First, Chairman Robert Kraft, yourself. Mr. Honiger, Treasurer, your Uncle George, Secretary, and of course Mr. Trowbridge and Mr. Bates, making 5 in all, right?
Right.
You can find me at any time, my dwelling straight across the boulevard, opposite the gate. Makes it nice, living so close to my work. Now, would you like to see the sights, sir? Give the roof a chance to catch the heat.
Mm-hmm.
If you care to make a tour, it's a bit warmer outside.
That's quite a map.
Oh, yes, sir. That's a map of the entire cemetery, down to the weeest speck of dust. Here we are, and here's my shed with the row stone, and there's the gate you come in.
Certainly kept it up to date. There's a new mausoleum on there already.
Aye. Oh, yes, sir. This map's going to be a big help to you, Bobby. Suppose you got a customer and you want to know what ground we can show him. This is where the map comes in. One look and quick as a wink, you know who's where and what's what. It's them pins that makes it so easy. The black ones stand for the ones that is already there, and the white ones for them as has made their arrangements for the future. Now, for example, here's my place. Lovely, isn't she, Bob? There. Sun in the morning, but gets those trees to give shade in the afternoon heat.
McKee, you've been on this job now 40 years, right?
Aye.
Well, I guess the committee's right. It's high time we retired you. Nothing to worry about. Full pension, you draw the same check every month.
I'm to be paid for nothing from now on.
No, you're to be paid for 40 years of devotion. And that's something. Anyone in mind to replace her?
Oh, I hadn't given it much thought, sir, but, there must be plenty of young and hard-muscled tots would give the right teeth for my shoes. It's a lovely place to work. You're outside, near Mother Air.
Well, let me know if you find somebody.
Oh, I will.
Yes, sir, that's quite a map.
Pardon me, sir. I just wanted to show you where we keep this in case of emergencies. No need to worry, though. We haven't had none yet. Oh, you expecting visitors, sir?
No, but that sounds like Stu Drexel.
Oh, aye! Drexel and Pretty Beth Ferris. And I heard they was promised.
Looks like they're hitched.
She finally caught me, Bob.
Betty, many happy returns of the day. Stu, that's a great place you picked for a honeymoon.
Oh, marriage has made me conservative. How about it, Mrs. D? Can I carry you over the threshold?
I still don't think it's so very funny. I think it's positively awful if you really want to know the truth.
Oh, Bethy, don't be that way.
What's the trouble?
How would you like to get a cemetery plot for a wedding gift?
Now, Bethy, you know Pop never meant it for a present. It's just a formal, legal sort of thing. You see, Dad left part of my inheritance in trust for when I got married. One of the provisions was that myself and my wife had first-class accommodations here at the Immortal Hills. Doesn't cost us a cent, but we have to buy the plots before the bank will let me have the cash. You know, Dad, he never did consider me much on responsibility.
He was a very smart man.
Oh, aye, that he was. And though a bonny bride should have her thoughts far from doom, it's a lucky girl whose father-in-law provides from the beyond for her future.
Isn't he sweet?
Thanks, Scotty. Bob, give us a couple near the old man, will you? And call up Owens at the bank in the morning so I can cash a check.
I don't think it's funny at all.
From the last administration, sir. Folks get a wee bit rocky when they come out here sometimes. Best to be prepared. Down the hatch.
Thank you.
Oh, over here. That's where the Drexel bunch is. It'll get so you'll love it out here, Bobby. It's a fine and green and lovely place. A fine place to slip away from the cares of the world. Slip away and live a wee bit.
As retiring chairman of the Immortal Hills Cemetery Management Committee,
George, I haven't got...
it is now my very great pleasure to announce the appointment of Robert Kraft, president of Kraft's department.
Now, George, don't shush me. You railroaded me into this.
Now, wait a minute, Bob. It's your turn. Last year was his turn. The year before it was mine. Nobody refuses to take the chairmanship. Partners, Henry.
President of Kraft's department store.
Why?
Nobody ever has. It's just not done, son.
Well, can you give me one good reason why I should take over the management of a whole big cemetery when I'm up to my neck in my own business?
As retiring...
Of course I can. Tradition. Particularly for us Crafts. You always harp on dignity, honor, prestige. Well, how do you think we got it? Because your great-grandfather, your grandfather, and your father served on every community project, board, and committee that was ever created. They served for free, but they did it for business. That's what a fine family has to do in this town. And you can't refuse to do it without losing a lot of respect from our customers.
And another thing, it's just not done.
Well, pass me over till next year. I'm up to my ears.
Bob, do you realize you're talking about only a few hours a month at the most? McKee, the caretaker, handles everything. All you do is show up once a week and sign the checks.
It's getting late, George.
Proceed, Henry.
Raise your right hand.
Well, what about Bill Honiger?
Raise your right hand. Do you, Robert Kraft, swear to discharge the duties and responsibilities of this office faithfully and completely to the utmost of your abilities?
I do.
Congratulations, Bob.
Thanks, Mr. Trowbridge. Thank you, Uncle George.
Okay, Miss Lane, you can put through his calls now.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. I'll ring him for you now.
Hello. There's a guy named Watson on the phone. Says it's urgent. You know him?
Of Olds and Watson? Olds and Watson, you know.
Oh, the Undertaker. Swell. Hello. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Watson. I'll do the best job I can. Yes, sir. Oh, you're kidding. Well, sir, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it myself. I'll be there within an hour. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Well, what about this ad?
I have to wait. I'm sorry.
Well, now, call McKee. You don't have to go up there every time.
This is different.
Somebody prominent?
Stu Drexel and his wife.
Stu and Betsy? No.
Hi. Hi, Jess. McKee, this is Mr. Jessup of the Milford Herald.
Hi, Jessup. Oh, the west slope between the Pattersons and the Fenleys.
What else is new?
You were my big news for the day. Asked about plans for the coming year, Kraft revealed the Immortal Hills will install a drive-in bar to stimulate additional trade. I'm stuck with the obituary detail. Boy, it's cold in here.
McKee, let's get that heat on that letter tomorrow. Huh? We better get ready for the interment.
Aye, that'll be done, sir.
And you better change the Drexel pins. Black instead of white.
Oh, they already got black pins, sir.
Oh, who changed them?
Well, now, the last I remember was the very day they come out here to give you the order, and you stuck in 2 pens.
I guess that's right. I must have picked up the wrong color. Well, nothing. It's just a little weird, that's all.
What?
Well, the kids came out here right after they tied the knot. They bought a couple of plots. Stu was complying with some technicality in his trust. And it was all very cute. We had a couple of laughs. And afterwards, I jabbed 2 pins in the map, white pins, I thought, just to make it official. And I hear today they've been killed, and the maps had them on the blacklist all the time.
Okay, so what?
Well, nothing. It just made me feel a little eerie, that's all.
I think he means he marked the young couple for death, sir.
Yeah, I guess that was it. That must have been the feeling I had. Well, it's funny what'll go through a guy's mind, isn't it?
Do me a favor, McKee. If he starts fooling around with those pins again, be sure he stays away from the west slope, between the Pattersons and the Finleys.
Indeed, I will, sir.
Hi, Annie. What are you doing out here?
I had a luncheon date, but I was stood up.
I know a nice little place down the street.
I just might take you up on that.
I won't hold my breath.
George told me about Beth and Stuart, and I just had to see you. Made me think how lucky we are just to be alive and together.
Oh, Ann, this is Mr. McKee. This is Miss Craig, my fiancée, Andy.
How do you do?
Miss, would you be wanting me for anything else, Bobby?
No, thanks, Andy.
Bob. What's wrong?
Oh, nothing. I'm just a little depressed, that's all, but you'll take care of that. And I kept wishing we could keep our appointment.
Oh, rendezvous, if you don't mind. Your gray flannel is showing. Actually, do you know what made me turn around and come here instead of going home?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was driving along, feeling rejected. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden I saw you very clearly in my mind. Bob, it's just that you're too attractive. After all, president of a department store and in charge of the Immortal Hills.
Irresistible.
I saw you and I heard you. Lunchtime, Annie. That's what you said distinctly.
Lunchtime, Annie. Well, I can do better than that, I hope.
Oh, you did. You said, I want you. And I need you, and a whole lot of lovely things I'd be embarrassed to repeat.
Yeah. You know, just about the time you were seeing me, I had you on my mind.
That's amazing.
No, I mean it. And I don't blame you for not wanting to repeat what I was thinking.
We better go to lunch or get married. Or I can just as easily join Jess at that little spot down the road he spoke of.
We regret the management does not permit exchanges once the merchandise has been purchased.
Then I'll freshen up.
Immortal Hills Craft. Hi, Carl. No, terrible. No, I'm sorry. The funeral's been confined to the immediate family. Yeah, all right, Carl. I'll see you later.
No, no.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. We are lucky to be alive. With each other. Come on.
Okay. You're a good girl. Mwah. You want to come up here with me? You too scared? Okay, you're too scared. So we have our hero begrudgingly taking a job at the local cemetery that comes complete with a rather satanic looking plot map and color-coded pins. Well, black and white, naturally. Pins that when mixed up can have seemingly otherworldly and deadly results. With its somber aesthetic and a view of reality just left of our own, this film has a tonal quality of an extended episode of The Twilight Zone. It's classy in a way that its title wouldn't lead you to believe it to be. I Bury the Living suggests a lurid drive-in spook show exploitation affair rather than the dreamlike psychological thriller that we're being treated to right now. Additionally, the first suggestion of something being off about our main character Robert Kraft begins creeping in. He mentions being cold, and he's often framed against the cemetery map, which looks for all the world like an ancient druid rune. Though shot in black and white, color plays a symbolic role, with black, the traditional color of death in our culture, and the pins of the map representing filled graves, and white, the sign of purity and innocence, pins representing graves sold, but whose occupants are, for the moment, among the living. Released in 1958, I Bury the Living is directed masterfully by Albert Band, written by Louis Garfinkel, and starring Richard Boone. Albert Band made a name for himself early in his career, directing films such the like, that is the English of me. The films like The Young Guns, Face of Fire, and Dracula's Dog, which, not to be confused with my dog, or dogs who, ditched me when the movie got too scary. He became extremely prolific later on in his career when his son, Charles Band, creator of the Puppet Master series among countless others, struck a gold mine in the home video market and kept Albert working both as a producer and director for the rest of his career, with classics like Terror Vision, Castle Freak, and Troll as producer, and Ghoulies 2, Dr. Mordred, and the miniature dinosaur family film that I love called Prehysteria. Albert Band passed away in 2002 at the age of 78. He left a monumental legacy, and his son Charlie is still cranking away, making films and entertaining fans. Albert, you are missed. Louis Garfinkel was not only a writer, but a co-producer on the film. He and Band did a few other pictures together. He went on to write films such as A Minute to Pray, A Second to Die, and the hilariously audacious The Doberman Gang. Yes, they are a gang of Dobermans. Yes, they rob banks. Highly recommended viewing. It makes me wish my dogs weren't so lazy. They can barely co-host a TV show, let alone rob a bank. But I'm still going to give them a bunch of treats, because I'm powerless. I'm weak. While his writing credentials petered off in the late 70s, he helped co-create a computer program called Collaborator, one of the first pieces of software for screenwriters. He passed away in 2005. You know, hosting older movies can be a bummer, as most of the trivia tends to end in death. It starts to feel like you're reading obituaries. Ooh, on that note, let's get back to our man and his map. I Bury the Living. Let's press play.
nobody home. Eat nor drink nor money have I none. Well, well. Hey, Bobby! Be happy. Hey, oh. Ah, I picked the Strexel stone for glass. Fine and rich and swirly. I'm a granite man myself. Bobby! Bobby, I've got a surprise.
Found your replacement.
Oh, well, no, not yet. But I'm scouting the countryside. This is far sweeter. This is what I call getting things done.
Okay, you should have been an executive.
Hey, best take off your coat, Bobby. You'll be getting overheated. Fairly quiet this week. Only one passing. Now, if you'll just sign these.
Let's get rid of these flowers.
Oh, aye, they smell a wee bit sickly. I was hoping to keep them for the burial this afternoon.
We need much help?
Oh, no, this is just an average funeral. They don't come like the Drexel doings every day, thank the Lord.
McKee, this bill for W. Asham. What's it for?
Why, he's the lad for this afternoon, Bobby. Oh, no need to look so sad. Willisham was the same age lad as me. Oh, there's something I've been meaning to tell you. Mighty queer it strikes me, Bob. I went to the map just after we got the news. They changed Willisham's pin to black. It was already black. Looks like there might be something creepy up with that map. Changing pen colors without human assistance, no less.
I changed Mr. Iceham's pin, Andy.
But, Bob, you haven't been here since he died.
Jessup, please. I know, I changed his pin before he died, not after. Jess, it's Bob Kraft. Can you come over here right away? No, I'm at the cemetery.
That map's nothing but an old piece of paper hanging on the wall. All you do when you stick pins in it is to make holes in the paper. White pins, black pins, safety pins. It doesn't make any difference, see? Well, look, it's unfortunate that it worked out this way, but coincidences are part of everyday life. Some are funny, some are pretty odd, but this one isn't even good enough to make the back page of the shopping news. That's all it is, Bob, coincidence.
Yeah. You're right, Jess. Thanks.
That's okay. Sometime when I've tied on a real headbender, you can do the same for me. What's your trouble?
Well, nothing, but I've been through all this before. The grass, the quiet, and that sound. I never knew what it was. It's the sound of a name being cut into a headstone.
Yeah, I've heard of people who thought they'd been through the same bit before in their dreams. I think it's even happened to me.
What would you say if I told you this happens to me regularly? Ever since I was a child. Sometimes as often as every other week.
I'd say you were sensitive or exaggerating.
Third floor sportswear, 9280 gross. Compared to 8500 as the same date last year. Basement sportswear.
I'm going to call Bates and Honiger and Trowbridge right now and tell them I'm quitting. Don't worry, George. Nothing drastic will happen to the store. My mind's made up.
You mean mixed up? I've lived in Milford all my life, and I can't remember any man who ever let that place get the better of him. Why, when I was chairman, I'll bet I stuck the wrong colored pins in that thing a dozen times. If I ran out of one color, I used the other. You've only been down there a couple of times.
George, I put black pins in the map for the Drexel couple the day they were killed. Now, I didn't think anything of it at the time. And then I took a white pin out of the map quite at random, and I put a black pin in its place, and today I find out the old man it belonged to died during the week.
Bob, that's terrible. For heaven's sake, Bob, everybody loves a ghost story. Where's your sense of humor? You don't really believe that stuff you're telling me, do you?
No. But I still think I may be learning something about myself. Where are you going?
Oh, I think I'll just take a run out to the cemetery.
What for?
Sounds like it might be fun. After all, I've been trying to find some way to wipe out our competition for years.
Good night, George.
Want to take my car?
All right.
Won't be but a moment, sir.
No, don't bother, McKee. I think I've got it. Oh, that'll be all, McKee.
Is everything all right, Roby? We'll see you later, Andy.
Well, the place hasn't changed a bit since I was chairman. 2 more pins in the map.
Black ones.
White ones, too. Sit down and relax, Bob. I think I can get this whole thing cleared up for you.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to convince you that there's nothing out here for you to worry about.
George, let's forget this.
Bob, I said I'm just going to convince you.
Well, George, suppose you took Henry Trowbridge's white pin out and put a black one in its place, and tomorrow morning he turned up dead.
It's not a chance.
Well, I know not a chance, but suppose by some weird coincidence it happened. It's happened to me 3 times already.
I deal strictly in facts, son. I don't go for this coincidence spunk. But if Henry Trowbridge even looks a little peaked tomorrow, you can resign and I'll back you up. Now, Henry Trowbridge, let me see if I remember.
I just mentioned Henry as an example. Now, you're not going to use him.
Well, Henry's as good a choice as anybody, considering he directly preceded you as committee chairman.
Wait a minute, George. You better let me put the pin in. If you do the honors and nothing happens, it won't be quite as conclusive.
By all means, let's not diverge from the established pattern. But I'll have you know, I was no slouch when it came to pinning the tail on the donkey when I was a kid. No reflection on Henry. Go ahead, Bob.
You better call Henry and tell him what we did.
He'd only think we were kidding.
No, he'd believe you.
Then he'd call my physician, and he'd reserve a nice quiet room for me at Providence Hospital. Let's keep this quiet, my boy. Henry can't complain. After all, if his term had run a week or so longer, he might be having the willies instead of you.
Hello, Miss Trowbridge. This is Bob Kraft. What are you doing up so late? Nothing serious. I just meant to call Henry earlier and it slipped my mind. Put him on, will you? Or if he's watching the movie and enjoying it, ask him to call me back during the commercial.
No, Bob, just hold on and I'll get him. He's upstairs reading in bed, but I'm sure he's not asleep.
Well, I hate to disturb him.
You just hold the wire, Bob.
Hello, Henry?
He's not breathing, Bob. I've got to call a doctor.
I understand. I'll hang up right away. I'm terribly sorry.
Hey pal, guess what? This episode of Popcorn Fodder is brought to you by Henflix.com, and that's my personal web store where you can buy the films I've directed, but also neato Popcorn Fodder merchandise like this pillow and some t-shirts. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of cool stuff on there. So please check out Henflix.com, get some cool Popcorn Fodder merch, some cool movies, help us keep the show independent, and we'll both appreciate it, and this guy might get an extra treat. Do you want a treat? Is that what you want? You just want me to leave you alone, don't you? Dogs, dude. Dogs. As the strangeness of the situation grows ever more prevalent in Kraft's life, the deaths continue. Dreams and deja vu are brought into the mix. You know, it makes you wonder just what is going on with Kraft. Is this all just a dream? Is he himself dead, or an omnipotent being as his power to influence life and death would suggest? Or is it simply a series of coincidences driving our protagonist insane? I'll put a pin in it, and we'll find out later. See what I did there? Simplicity is king in this little spooky flick. The way Kraft interacts with his girlfriend, the goals he has in life, and how mortified he is by the deaths all ring so true to me. It gives me what scientists termed heebie-jeebies. One major reason for the minimalism working so well is without a doubt Richard Boone. Boone is probably most famous for his role as the star of TV series Have Gun Will Travel, playing Paladin, who was very different than most gunfighters depicted in westerns of the time. He had a sophistication and almost a gentleness to him, but he always brought the goods when it came time to shoot some sons of bitches. He would also host his own TV show, The Richard Boone Show, which unfortunately ran only one season before being canceled, never to be re-aired. The rest of his career was spent in a combination of guest appearances and feature films, most of which were gunfighter films. But I'll always remember him fondly for being the voice of Smaug in the animated TV movie The Hobbit from 1977. I owned that tape as a kid and I wore it out. He worked right up until his death in 1981 at the far too young age of 63. A class act from beginning to end, He was a brilliant casting choice for this film. His face sells the dread, the anxiety, and the tension. Speaking of tension, I'm pretty excited to get us back to the film, but I'm leaving on all the lights. Don't you judge me. I bury the living. Let's press play.
Wait here. This won't take long. Morning.
How do you do, sir?
Well, I don't understand it. Jess said he'd be here in 20 minutes. Lieutenant Claiborne?
So that's it, huh? Sure big enough. There are the black pins, eh?
We're particularly concerned with these four. Isham, and the Drexel couple, and now Trowbridge.
Let me get this straight, Mr. Kraft. You say that every time you stick a black pin in the map, people turn up dead?
That's right. Well, go ahead, Lieutenant. You think I'm a crackpot, and I hope you're right. I just want to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt.
Stewart and Elizabeth Drexel, DOA, emergency receiving hospital, result of highway collision. William Isham, cause of death, cerebral hemorrhage. Henry Trowbridge, coronary thrombosis. Well, the rule is this. Where no evidence of homicide exists on the initial investigation, the matter will be dropped. Investigated, found nothing. Sorry. Yes, sir?
What's new, or should I say real?
Nothing like murder, if that's what you're after.
I'm sorry Bob saw fit to disturb you, Lieutenant.
No harm done. What do you make of it, Jess?
I keep telling him it's just coincidence.
Yeah. If I were you, Mr. Kraft, I'd take a week or two off. Take it easy. You'll forget all about it. If you're going to use the story, kindly refrain from mentioning my name.
I know. Lieutenant Claiborne, with an E on the end.
Boy, I didn't think 4 deaths could appear so flimsy to a policeman.
You never should have called the police. Claiborne's one of the best. Any other guy might have looked for a big, heavy book to throw at you.
Yeah, maybe you're right. On the other hand, maybe that thing's dangerous. Really dangerous. Or maybe the element of danger is in a man. In me.
Bob.
Is there something different about me, Jess? I'm really beginning to wonder.
Hey, buddy. If there is anything to this map, don't go blaming it on nameless forces. Maybe somebody's trying to scare you. Could be you got an enemy or two.
Somebody using your desk, George?
He came in to keep me company, darling.
That was very sweet of him.
Oh, darling, you must be dead tired.
I'm all right.
No sleep, and then to have to go back
I'm
out
all
there
right.
again?
There's no crime in needing a good rest.
George, I've got some correspondence to take care of.
I've already taken care of your mail, and I took the liberty of making reservations for you. Flight 33, leaving for Miami at 5:45. My pal Sanford owns one of the finest hotels on the beach.
George, thanks anyway. There's nothing I'd rather do, but I can't possibly go now.
Bob, I gave you my word. If anything happened to Henry, you could resign. I talked to Charlie and Bill Honiger, and they understand completely. It's all fixed, son.
The situation's changed. Until this thing's cleared up, I'm not about to resign.
Oh.
And when you tell the others, ask them to meet me here in my office, 7:30 tonight.
It's awfully short notice.
The committee can't just ignore what's happened.
I guess you're right.
Darling,
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to snap at you.
now why can't you resign?
Well, because possibly something real, unreal, I don't know, is waiting to kill one of us every time I jab a black pin into that map.
Bob, you're talking about Henry Trowbridge. The poor man died of a heart attack. Heart disease is the country's #1 killer.
Maybe not in Milford.
Oh, Bob, you can't mean that map is literally killing people?
No, Ann. Maybe it isn't the map.
Well...
What about the other day? You saw me, you heard me. Lunchtime, Annie, I want you, I need you.
Bob, I was obviously trying to bring a little romance into our very dull and dismal lives.
No, Ann, don't try to deny it.
I do deny it. Bob, I love you. I'm not in any sort of occult thrall to you. Hey, can't you take a joke? All right, then I was lying to you. Does that bring you back to reality again? Bob, I think we better take advantage of those plane tickets. George's Mr. Sanford's could be best man.
The offer's awfully attractive.
I love you so much.
And if you're going to cry, do it someplace else.
Now, Bob, it's real simple. We're willing to play ball with you. If you want to remain chairman of this committee, we wouldn't think of trying to dissuade you. Because we have confidence in you. Full confidence.
All the confidence in the world, Bob.
Now, all we want before we break this up is a promise from you, Mr. Chairman, that before you turn in tonight, you'll go out to the cemetery. Now, let me finish. You'll go out there and change my white pen to black. And Charlie's and George's. Just as simple as that. And then go home and go right to bed.
No, sir.
You're not the committee, Bob. You're only our chairman, with the duty to carry out the will of the majority. We feel that you should do as Bill said, because it'll put an end to this business once and for all. Otherwise, we'll do the resigning right here and now.
Well, let me sleep on it. Let's all sleep on it. I don't think you people realize what might be involved here.
Motion defeated. Tonight.
Well, your devotion to the principle of majority rule moves me deeply. Okay. And good night. Charlie. Here goes nothing, Uncle George. Who is it?
It's me, Bobby. Open up.
I seen your car lights from my window driving through the gate, so I come running.
You needn't have bothered McKee. You put in a full day already. Now, I'll see you tomorrow.
No. Bobby, please. Bobby, listen. When you locked and bolted this place, I said to myself, now there's a man who knows his business. That's what I said. He may not know everything what's behind it, but he knows when a thing's to be fooled with and when it's to be left alone. There's nothing to fear with a man like Bobby Kraft at the tiller. That's what I said.
Well, that's fine now. You run along home and don't worry about a thing. Nothing's going to happen to you.
No. Please. Bobby, lock this door again and send yourself home. Or else, who can answer for what may happen to the whole miserable lot of us?
It'll have to be open sometime. If I don't do it, they'll get somebody who will. Well, good night, Andy. Good night. Andy go home.
Hello? Is this the Immortal Hill Cemetery?
What do you want, Jess?
Bob? Why didn't you answer me? I've been looking all over town for you. I'm calling from your place now. What are you doing at the cottage again? Haven't you had enough for one day?
Jess, I think I've done something terribly wrong.
Love of Pete, what are you talking about?
Well, we had a meeting of the cemetery committee after closing tonight. Bill Honegger, Charlie Bates, and George, everybody. And they voted to make me come out here to the cemetery and stick black pins in the map for each of them. Just like it was some kid's nightmare. So I did it. Jess, there's a black pin in that map for Charlie Bates and Bill Honegger and George. And if anything happens to them, to any of them, it's my fault, nobody else's.
Nothing's going to happen to them, Bob. As a matter of fact, I think they did you a big favor. I've never heard of a coincidence involving 3 people dying all at once. By tomorrow at this time, this whole big worry of yours will do nothing but a lot of hot air.
Yeah. Well, I hope you're right, Jess. I guess there's nothing for me to do but see this thing through.
I think I'll check on him myself and see... Bob? Bob? Honegger, Bates, and George.
Lieutenant Claiborne, please.
Homicide. This is Homicide, Sergeant Gray.
Lieutenant Claiborne, please.
Not here. Can I take a message?
Sergeant, this is Bob Kraft, Kraft's department store.
Oh, sure. Oh, wait a second. Wait a second, I'll check. Mr. Kraft, are you calling the police matters or just something personal?
Well, it's a little bit of both, Sergeant.
Drive at Adams 1311.
Thank you. Honegger, Adams 1311. Adams 1. Give me a homicide.
Yes, sir. Homicide.
This is Bob Kraft speaking. I can't get through to that Adams number.
No?
Claiborne's at that number, and it's imperative that I speak to him right now.
Well, sir, just a second, sir. I think he's reporting in on the line. They've been trying to get you, but your line's been busy. Hang up, and I'll call you back right away.
Something happened to Bill Honegger. Hello.
Yes, Bob.
Just, I'm expecting a call from Claiborne. Hang up. Call me back in 10 minutes.
Claiborne's with me.
Let me talk to him.
He's not here now.
What's wrong, Tess?
Bill Honegger's dead. As soon as I found out, I routed Claiborne out of the sack and filled him in on the whole wild story. We were over at Honegger's in 10 minutes with 2 squad cars detailed to cover Charlie Bates and your uncle.
How did Honegger get it?
Well, he didn't. That's the trouble.
What?
Poor guy just dropped dead.
Nothing out of the ordinary. Bates? Charlie Bates?
They found him in his apartment.
Say it.
No homicide. He just stopped breathing.
George?
George, yeah. I called and told him about Honegger before I left for Claiborne's. By the time the police got there, George had already left. Well, they'll find him, Bob. Don't worry.
I'll be waiting for word about George. Let me know.
As the paranoia grows, I think it's time we bring in the big guns and help us dissect the terror. Tonight's guest is a special one for Popcorn Fodder, a true man of learning that will doubtlessly shed unbelievable amounts of light on tonight's fright flick. Kids and kittens, I am pleased to welcome Dr. Bartholomew Latslong, MD, PhD, BBS, UHF, and plenty of other impressive letters as well. Dr. Latslong, are you there? Who the hell are you?
I am Sister Sadie Safeword.
Where is Dr. Latslong?
He's, a little bit tied up at the moment. And let me just say, that name of his is one big misnomer.
Not to be rude, but I'm doing a show here. I booked an expert. So who's gonna talk about our movie?
Me?
You?
Yes. I am very talented, and I have what the old folks call babika?
You mean chutzpah?
Gesundheit. Anyway, I am a very big lover of cinema. I remember in the old country when I was on the Eastern Bloc, when my sister Svetlana and I would spend many, many days at the local theater. We would watch over and over the Parasite Shun the Proletariat. It played 72 hours a week at our local theater and contained over 10 frames of beautifully animated cinema.
Right, but we need to discuss I Bury the Living.
I have seen that one. Tell me, where in the film are you?
Let's see. We're at Kraft's seemingly godlike abilities continuing as his emotional and mental descent continues as Director Band begins slowly increasing the darkness at the edges of the frame.
May I?
Hey, knock yourself out, sister.
Danke. The way I see it, the growing darkness provides a visual representation of our hero's ever-encroaching paranoia. Also of note is that the cemetery map seems to be growing in size as the film progresses, its presence dominating Kraft's existence.
Would you want to get married? I mean, for citizenship purposes, of course?
I must be going. So many asses to beat, so little time. You know how it goes. I will be seeing you soon, my little pierogi.
All right, let's just get back to the film. I need a real quick cold shower, but Henwolf and Chicano are not gonna fill in for me, so I guess I'll just stay right here. Let's press play.
Followed our wishes to the letter. Come on. I'll drive you home before you catch pneumonia.
You three men made a terrible contribution to this town tonight, whether you meant to or not. I'm not going anywhere, Uncle George. I'm staying right here.
Well, I admit that what was Charlie and Bill going so suddenly.
Charlie and Bill and Henry and Isham and Beth and Stu.
Stop looking at the map.
You're looking at it. I'm looking at you. We're both waiting. Aren't we, Uncle George? Waiting to see if you escape.
Escape dying? Nobody escapes that, my boy.
The only question is how long. The only question is, does a man die in his own time or in the maps? So far, everyone's been forced to conform to its schedule. Everyone but you.
That puts me back on schedule. My own schedule.
If it makes you feel any better.
Let me tell you something. From now on, if you want to see me, you're going to have to come down to the store. I won't make another special trip on your account.
The next time I see you, George, we'll both be right here. This is Robert Kraft out at Immortal Hills.
Claiborne speaking.
Lieutenant, my uncle just left here. I think under the circumstances, the least you can do is put a man on to watch over him, no matter how ridiculous the situation seems to you.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Kraft. We'll take care of it right away.
He's wearing an overcoat over his robe and pajamas.
We put a description of the wire quite some time ago.
And you do think there's danger?
Sergeant, Kraft, George F. driving east on Bunker Hill. Road from destination manor apartments. We'll have your uncle safe inside in 10 minutes, Mr. Kraft. You'll hear from me.
Are you sure your uncle was out there tonight? You didn't just think you saw him?
I told you he just left here.
That was 2 hours ago, and no sign of him anyplace. I put out on all points after the first hour. He's not on the road, and he's not home.
Hold the wire, Lieutenant. You better come out, Lieutenant. He's still here.
All the day, Randall, my son, where have you been all the day?
Andy!
Someone, I've been out hunting, mother. I've been out hunting, mother. Make my bed soft, mother. Make my bed soon, for I'm sick.
Andy!
McKee, I'm going to burn that stuff in the greenhouse if this heater doesn't work by tonight.
Bobby, it took a whole lifetime of collecting for me to get the whole caboodle here. And see here, you haven't even touched your foot. Man, you've got to eat if you want to keep above the ground. Lights for me, Bobby. Of course, I can't answer for what happens after sundown.
Better wait in the car. Irresistible.
Aren't I crazy?
Completely.
I'll never change, I'm afraid.
Annie, I'll see you later.
Bob, please. I take it back.
What?
That day in the car, I did see you and I did hear you. I really did. I should never have denied it.
It's all right, Annie. I'll see you later.
You have a party named Jacob Mittel someplace in the map? M-I-T-T-E-L.
William Porter? Sure.
You know?
Yeah. We contact the French designers through Mittel. Matter of fact, he's in Paris now.
Better strike him out.
Jay?
Go ahead.
How did he die?
He isn't dead. At least not yet. I know what you're thinking, Mr. Kraft. You're thinking that we tricked you into killing Jacob Mittel. Well, you're 100% right, so try to relax, huh? This one's on the police. You see, Jacob Mittel's in the prime of life. No previous major illnesses, no record life expectancy, exceptionally good. And he's in Paris with all that ocean water to protect him from this mess. Up until now, all the deaths have been confined to the local area. If it strikes somebody on another continent, then we've really found something.
I knew I should have gotten rid of those pins 4 days ago. Even the map, the whole thing, out. What I want to know is, what are you going to tell the district attorney is responsible for these deaths?
We gave this case a real full-dress investigation, Mr. Kraft. Questioned you and all the other suspects and witnesses until a point of comedy. Found nothing. No motive, no opportunity, no suspect, no crime, no weapon. Except 7 pins went in. And the 7 people died, not 1, 7. Who put in those pins? You did, all 7. Other chairmen and so on have been putting pins in that map for years, and nothing happened.
But with me,
it isn't impossible for a certain kind of man to be endowed with powers that nobody had ever dreamed he could have. A lot of scientists claim that. Maps and pins can't kill alone. The power of a human brain has to be behind them. Like in the Indies, I guess, those voodoo dolls you hear about. Witch doctor sticks pins in the thing until the guy in question is jinxed into dying. Of course, I know he didn't mean to kill anybody. I have to get back. You'll hear from me the minute we get word.
I think I'd best be running alone, too. Bob. I think so.
Guys, I know tonight's movie might be pretty scary to some of you, but there's something even scarier. Social media. If you want to follow me day or night, you can go to Twitter or Instagram at Popcorn Fodder or Facebook.com/popcornfodder, or you could even write me an email at popcornfoddershow@gmail.com. Just know that I'm very afraid. Oh, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna look for pennies under here to finance season 2. As Kraft is on the verge of losing it, we get a nice counterbalance from Robert Ulsterlaw's Lieutenant Claiborne character, who serves not only a Greek chorus, but as an extension of Kraft trying to make sense of his own brain. His radical New Age psychobabble accentuates the themes of the film and gives us food for thought to deduce if goings-on are a figment of Kraft's imagination or a full-on display of outer psychic powers. This era of storytelling is so much fun. Shows like The Twilight Zone and The Outer Limits love delving into all the murky spaces between science fiction and science fact. I'm a sucker for a good pseudoscience narrative when it's played straight. Something about it being in black and white also really adds to it for me. Not entirely sure why, but it does. The musical score by Gerald Fried brings it all together perfectly. His other works include Machine Gun Kelly, many episodes of Gilligan's Island, and even some episodes of the original Star Trek. Now that I said that, I can totally hear the Star Trek scores come in my head. Like, listen. I'm not the only one who finds the movie particularly scary, by the way. Stephen King dug the flick so much he mentions it as one of his favorite films in his 1981 nonfiction book, Dance Macabre. He also used it as the inspiration for his short story Obits from the Bazaar of Bad Dreams collection. It's a story about a writer who realizes they can cause others to die by writing up initially false obituaries about them. Sounds pretty familiar, but you know what they say, only steal from the best. Well, I think I'm about as ready as I'll ever be for the mentally taxing conclusion to our film, I Bury the Living. Let's press play.
I destroyed them. Something in me killed them. Something in me. But I couldn't refuse the job. Not a man with my reasoning power. If I have the power of death using the black pens, then I must have the power of life using the white ones. This is the cemetery, that's right.
This is Rosamund Middle.
Rosamund, I don't... Yes?
Can't you hear me? This is Rosamund Middle. Jay's wife.
Rosamund, yes.
Just received a cable, Bob. Can't you hear me?
You just received a cable from Paris, France.
That's right. I'll read it again.
Regret. Jacob W. Middle died in Hotel Royale. Body awaits disposition. Signed American Embassy, Paris, France.
That's right. He died there.
Died in Paris, France. Died. Jacob W. Middle.
Impossible. Impossible. He cannot be dead. What? What? You still think that thing's the killer? Or your own puny power, Mr. Chairman? The only power you or that map ever had was me, so far as killing goes. You marked them for death, Mr. Chairman, but who did the deed? Andrew McKee.
Oh, Andy. Why?
You and your high and mighty committee, turning out a man with 40 years of service on the grounds. 40 years.
I told you, Andy, a full pension.
It isn't cash what keeps a man going, lad. What keeps his feet on the ground and keeps him on the job till the Lord makes him quit. The Lord, but nobody else. This is my house, my lands, my activities. Aye, we come a long dark road to put this gun to your head, Bob.
Andy, we never tried to take anything away from you.
I made sure of that. I snuck up on each one of them in turn when they was alone and held them fast like so until they went. Aye, even big old George, your uncle, left as easy as a baby.
Middle. That doesn't explain what happened to Middle. Middle's dead.
Will you stop that confounded talk, man? That map's not but a doodad. You fool. There is nothing to fear here.
Andy, talk about something else, quick. It's important.
We're finished with talking. Finished you are with maps and pins black and white.
Talk about something else, I said. It's important right now. Talk about anything else. Now.
Why?
Because I caused you to kill those people. Andy, you better get this straight right now. You heard that lieutenant. It's possible for some people to have things inside them that make other things happen. Nothing is impossible for a man like that if he thinks about it hard enough. I know you, Andy. You're no killer. I made you do it.
You talked me into killing them? Then they could all be back.
Andy, I never knew it.
How'd you come for that? That noise. Can't you hear it?
out. There's nobody.
They could all be back. They could all be back. Take me, sir. Go with that. You should have said 10 minutes forward. But now it's too late. Too late. Little fight. Give me all the fight. Not the young Drex will come. Go away. Go away and leave me alone. Go away. Go. It's save me, Bobby. He's dead, Lieutenant.
All right, forget the normal procedure. Get him out of here. Exhibit A. He really didn't need it. They died of fright first, just like he did.
You're forgetting about those 7 trips to the mausoleum, Lieutenant. 7 bodies, 7 trips.
They helped.
Lieutenant, Jacob Middle died in Paris.
Well, that was a plant, Mr. Kraft. Middle's all right. Sorry we had to put you through this, but it was the best way to make McKee come out in the open.
Mrs. Middle stayed up all night at headquarters, waiting for us to call in.
A radio car is posted just outside. We signaled her to phone you and tell you that lie about her husband. Am I getting through to you, Mr. Kraft?
Well, not quite yet.
We watched him, Bob. He actually managed to unearth all 7 of them. Wonder what got into him.
It was those white pens. It was. Annie, I lost my overcoat.
Oh, where? Which one? I'll get it.
No, never mind. I think I can find it myself.
After all of the fever dream narrative and supposed psychic powers, we get this kind of tacked on murder mystery ending, and the far-fetched explanations that accompany it are a bit of a letdown for the fans of the preternatural. That is not a word we say often in real life, but it's the 50s, so I'm going to let it slide. But the twist is unexpected and should be lauded as it's defying the audience's expectations. I don't totally hate the ending, but there have been rumors that the original ending was indeed supernatural, but at the last moment, they rewrote the film to have the ending set entirely in reality. The only element of the film I'm wishy-washy on, but it's still a chilling little flick, and I'm so glad we sat down to watch it tonight, and I hope you had a creepy good time with me, even if the dogs chickened out. Although to be real, we think Chicano has a cold, so he's resting, and Henwolf's just being a butt. But anyway, so now we gotta ask, what have we learned? When you believe you can kill people with the power of your mind, you should definitely make sure someone isn't just messing with your gullible ass. A whole new meaning to being on pins and needles. You don't actually have to be a part of the Twilight Zone to do an episode of it. Under the right direction, A map can be as terrifying as a monster. Well, thank you all so much for joining me for another flick. I had a great time and I hope you did too. And I hope to see you back here real soon for another piece of cinema on display. Until then, I'm Henrique Couto, and for Henwolf and Chicano, remember, there are no bad movies, only bad audiences. Later. Oh, fuck me. I heard a coyote, and not one I feed every day.
Ladies and gentlemen, this picture contains scenes which under no circumstances should be viewed by anyone with a heart condition or anyone who is easily upset.
Ladies and gentlemen, bad boys and naughty girls, put your hands together for the Devil of Dayton. Please welcome your handsome host of Ohio, Henrique Couto.